Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Brockopp side. Toy Story 4 was directed by Josh Cooley, and we get to see what life for Woody, Buzz, and all the other toys have been since they were given to Bonnie at the end of Toy Story 3. So this time around, Bonnie makes a new friend, Forky, in kindergarten, and he's just made of sporks and pipe cleaners and all this other stuff, and he's not really a traditional toy, but he comes to life and he's like, hey, wait a minute. I'm not a toy, I'm trash. I was birthed in the trash. I don't want to be a toy. Why do I exist? And of course, Woody takes it upon himself to protect Forky as they go on this road trip with Bonnie and her parents, where actually Woody ends up reuniting with Bo Peep after being separated for nearly a decade. So if you saw my review for the Toy Story 4K Steelbooks from a week or two ago, or my little moment in Zach Pope's What Toy Story Means to Me video, be sure to check that out if you haven't yet, then you know that I am a super duper fan of Toy Story. It's been with me literally my entire life. And of course, I was looking forward to Toy Story 4, although I was a bit skeptical, because, Toy Story 3 was just such a great movie and a fantastic ending to this trilogy, but I also had my optimism about it too, because I know that Pixar understands what this series means to people like myself, and I was positive they were going to do it right. Well, they have. They definitely have. Toy Story 4 is by far a fantastic movie. It feels necessary, it wraps things up well, and it just is a great movie on the same level as 1, 2, and 3. First of all, the animation is the greatest it's ever been for any of these movies. It is just so damn near photorealistic, just the way raindrops and sunlight just interact with the toys in these environments. It is just so immersive. I feel like part of the reason they keep making Toy Story movies every so often is just to show how much the animation technology and the quality just keeps advancing since 1995, because if you watch every single movie, you could definitely see a distinct improvement with each and every one, and this is by far the greatest looking of all 4 of them. You even get to see more details on the toys themselves, like Buzz Lightyear, his stickers and stuff on his chest and stuff. They're a bit faded, a little scuffed up, they're imperfect after so much time, which is just kind of cool. It just kind of shows, it's like a natural way to show how the toys have aged, because, they don't age like real human beings, so that's just a nice little detail that just really helps immerse you in this world and almost feels like it's live action to a degree. So aside from some great visuals in this movie, we get some new characters, including Ducky and Bunny, played by Key and Peele, who are by far the funniest characters in the entire movie. They bring so much of the humor with them. Probably the funniest part of this entire movie is when they're in this antique store trying to figure out how to get a key to a certain case in the antique store, and they go through these different ideas of how they can go about doing that, and it is just the funniest thing in the entire movie. I kept laughing at it for a few minutes after that scene was over, but they're not the only funny characters. This is genuinely a really, really funny movie. Might be the absolute most humorous of the entire series. Forky also brings a lot of humor as well, with this whole, I'm trash, I like trash, I'm trash, and now I am Bonnie's trash. And of course this movie features Keanu Reeves as Duke Kaboom, Canada's greatest stuntman. And he was just a fantastic addition to this movie. He even almost has a very tiny arc of his own, and he's just a really great character, and not just because it's Keanu Reeves. Okay, it's mostly because it's played by Keanu Reeves, but still, Duke Kaboom. I definitely intend to go buy that action figure eventually. The villain this time around is a doll named Gabby Gabby, and she's not quite like the other Toy Story villains from the other movies, because her motivations don't necessarily come from a place of hatred or anger. She just wants to be loved by a kid like all the other ones have. Maybe they have before, maybe they never have, but that's her motivation. And without getting into too much detail, her story does not end with her getting her comeuppance at the very end like the Prospector or Lotso Hugging Bear before her. She probably has the best ending of all the villains, because it doesn't just end with the audience going, ha! Karma! What makes this movie necessary is how it completes Woody's arc that spanned over now 4 movies. You know, he went from not wanting to leave Andy and wanting to be there when needed to understanding that it's time to move on to a new kid. And here in this movie, we realize that Woody has not moved on from Andy yet. You know, his situation with Bonnie is not the same as it was with Andy, because with Andy, you know, he was the leader of the room, he was toy number 1, you know, and here, it's not him, and he actually doesn't even get played with that often, but he still feels a need and a dedication and a responsibility for Bonnie like he did with Andy, and he even mistakes Andy for Bonnie a few times throughout this movie as well. And then he reunites with Bo Peep after all these years, and she is now a completely different character because she doesn't have an owner, she's not on a store shelf, she's out in the wilderness basically just trying to help other toys in a way that doesn't involve being in a child's bedroom all the time. And every movie, every Toy Story movie has shown Woody seeing the world as a toy in a different way and what that could mean besides his own situation, and here he realizes what else is out there besides being just a toy in a closet waiting to hopefully get played with. So that alone was what made this movie a needed installment, was showing Woody finally coming to terms with certain aspects of his past, what it means to be a toy, what it means to follow his inner voice, and of course we get all the other toys as well. Buzz Lightyear is in there once again, who is by far my favorite character, and you know, there's this whole thing about inner voice throughout the movie, Woody trying to follow his, and Buzz tries to do that as well, you know, just pushing his buttons and just using the catchphrases to be like, okay, alright inner voice, I'm gonna go fly off and save Woody and all that. I feel like there could have been more interactions between Woody and Buzz in this movie because they are the two main characters that drive this series forward so much, but I think it just makes you appreciate their interactions in this movie a lot more since they're not quite as many as maybe some of the other films. I really loved the various Easter eggs throughout this movie as well. You know, there have been a few different Toy Story shorts and TV specials in the last few years, and I noticed that there were Easter eggs for literally all of them and different references throughout the entire movie. I just thought that was really, really cool how they pay homage to these little, you know, these little like 22-minute TV specials and these like 10-minute shorts that would play before other movies. I just thought that was really great. This movie also has a lot of reprisals of various themes and pieces of soundtracks from other Toy Story movies, which was probably the bulk of my nostalgia feels, like probably at least 95% of my nostalgia feels from this movie. You know, hearing Zurg's Planet theme from the opening of Toy Story 2, and like some of the rescue themes from Toy Story 2 as well, and just pretty much every single main theme you heard from those movies is back here as well, and it just made me realize truly how memorable and how great the soundtracks for each of these Toy Story movies have been. And without getting into too much gory detail about how the movie ends, it's definitely a very emotional one, and after you watch the movie as a whole, you're like, yeah, this is the way this should end, this is the way Woody's story arc should conclude, and how this 24-year saga should come to a close, and the way it plays out is definitely something that if you followed this series your entire life, or from the very beginning like I have, it'll definitely hit home a lot more that way. But you know what, it's not like only nostalgic people are gonna enjoy this ending or this movie. If you just want to see a really, 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 really good installment in a series of A+ 10 out of 10 movies, you're gonna get the feels, you're gonna get the enjoyment, you're going to love this movie. Or at least you should. I don't really know how you live your life. And I guess if I had any issues with the movie, I guess it would be like, maybe it kind of retreads certain ground that the other Toy Story movies have, which basically all the Toy Story movies have done. This movie was just so damn good. It's just not worth sitting here trying to pick at every last little nit, trying to find flaws in it, because it's about the overall experience, and the overall experience is this movie is great, it's heartwarming, it's nostalgic, it's funny, it's well animated, it's well written, it's well directed, and it felt like a necessary sequel to Toy Story 3 and all the movies in general. I had such a good time with this movie. I was so happy. And it was also a movie theater experience I'm not gonna forget for a while, but we'll get into that in just a moment. But first, so all in all, Toy Story 4 proved just why exactly it needed to be made, and just gave us another great 10 out of 10 A+ movie in this series of A+ 10 out of 10 movies. So there we go. Those are my thoughts on the movie. Loved it. Go see it. I definitely am going to go see it a few more times before the Blu-ray comes out. But anyway, now we're going to have a little story time, my children, because, yeah, like I mentioned a minute ago, this is a movie theater experience that I'm not going to forget for a while. And, yeah, so I was all happy and honky-dory, ready to go see a new Toy Story movie. I went to my IMC theater, got this really cool Toy Story 4 tin that I just knocked a bunch of stuff over with, but anywho, so yeah, so I'm sitting there enjoying the movie, I'm trying to process my thoughts, I walk out of the theater, and then I grab my left pocket, and I'm like, oh crap, my wallet is gone. So I didn't panic immediately. I was like, okay, it must have just fallen out of my pocket while I was sitting in the theater. So I went in, double checked the whole place. I, tore that row apart. I asked every theater employee, like, hey, have you seen a wallet? And nobody did. So basically, my experience of seeing Toy Story 4 was slightly dampened because stupid me lost my wallet. I think it's probably just because I was just in such a good mood, ready to see a new Toy Story, that I probably just left it on the counter, but yeah, that was not fun, having to call and block a bunch of cards and stuff. But then I went back the next day and they had it, so all is good, I guess. But you know what? Still got to see Toy Story 4, and I loved it. So, those are my thoughts on Toy Story 4. Absolutely loved the movie. But anyway, if you guys have seen this movie, or if you think you're gonna try and make your kitchen utensils come to life and go on wacky misadventures while you're on vacation, let me know it's down below, and we'll see you on the Brockopp side.